Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss any update from RAU'S IAS Study Circle. Join the only official Telegram channel of RAU'S IAS Study Circle to get the relevant materials and important updates. Hello and welcome to the Daily News Simplified, the what, why, and how of the newspaper analysis from the perspective of civil services examination. So today we are going to discuss The Hindu Delhi edition dated 21st January 2022. The topics to be discussed have been displayed on your screen and the timestamping of the same has been provided in the description box below. So moving to our first important topic which has appeared in today's newspaper on the text and the context page. The topic is in relation to the OBC reservation in the local bodies. Now we are aware about the local bodies, that local bodies consist of two important institutions in our country. The first one is the panchayats and the other one are the municipal corporations or councils, which in general terms is known as municipalities. So this topic finds its mention in the UPSC scheme of syllabus under General Studies paper 2 in the Constitution and Polity part. This part specifically mentions about the issues pertaining to the local bodies. Further, the importance of this topic can also be understood by the repeated questions which have been asked in the context of the panchayat and municipalities in the previous year question papers of the UPSC mains. For example, in UPSC 2015, the question was asked in the context of the effectiveness of the local bodies. The question said that in the absence of the well-educated and organized local level government system, panchayats and samitis have remained mainly political institutions and not effective instruments of governance. You have to discuss this statement critically. Again, in 2018, the question was asked with regard to the importance of the panchayats. You were asked to assess the importance of the panchayat system in India as a part of a local government. Apart from government grants, what sources the panchayat can look out for financing development projects. So this means that various issues which are related to the local bodies, that is the municipalities or the panchayats, all those issues are important for us to understand and examine. So in this very regard, we have taken up this topic which relates to the issue of the OBC reservation in the local bodies. The context of this topic is the recent ordinance which was promulgated by the state of Maharashtra and the consequent challenge which it has faced in High Court as well as the Supreme Court. But to understand this topic holistically, first we need to understand that what does our constitution say about the OBC reservation in the local bodies. So in this very regard, first we will understand the constitutional provisions related to this. There are two articles. First, the Article 243D deals with the panchayats and Article 243D deal with the municipalities. Only the context of these articles differ. That is, the first article talks about panchayats and the other article talks about municipalities. However, the other things are exactly the same. The articles say that nothing in this part, that is the part dealing with the panchayats, shall prevent the legislatures of a state from making any provision for reservation of seats in any panchayat or offices of chairpersons in the panchayat at any level in favor of backward class of citizens. And similarly, the Article 243 gives the powers to the legislatures of the state to provide or to make provisions in favor of the backward classes of citizens with regard to the municipalities. So by these two articles, it is clear that the power lies with the legislatures of the state and they can provide for the reservation of the backward classes, that is the OBC, with regard to the reservation of seats in the panchayats as well as municipalities. So now where is the issue? When constitution is giving the power to the state governments, then why do we face such issues? The issue is in relation to the methodology which is to be adopted by the state legislatures in order to provide these reservations. So there is one very important case in this regard. The case is of 2010, K. Krishnamurthy versus Union of India. Now, under this case, a 5-judge constitution bench was set up in order to decide upon this matter. And one very important thing with this constitution bench told us that the reservation which is to be provided to the OBCs in the local bodies, that panchayats and the municipalities, It is different from the reservation which is provided to the backward classes under Article 15.4 and under Article 16.4. Because the reason is that the reservations which are to be provided under Article 15 and Article 16, there are certain reasonable restrictions also there, and those are mainly in regard to the public employment and the educational institutions. But when it comes to the local bodies, the entire objective of giving reservations in the political institutions is different from giving the reservations in the public employment or the educational institutions. Here, the concept of the substantive equality reinforces. And that is why these reservations must not be taken in a similar aspect as provided in Articles 15 or 16.4. Moving forward, in this very case, the Supreme Court laid down three tests which are to be taken by the state legislature before providing any reservation to the backward classes in the local bodies. The first thing which directly the Supreme Court was that Supreme Court opined that the state legislature must set up a dedicated commission to conduct rigorous empirical inquiry into the nature and the implications of the backwardness qua local bodies within the state. The second thing was to specify the proportion of the reservation required to be provisioned local body wise in light of the recommendations of the commission so as not to fall foul of overbreadth. And the third important thing was in line with the Indra Sawhney case judgment. The court said that the reservation shall not exceed aggregate of 50% of total seats reserved in favor of SCs, STs, OBCs taken together. So once again we'll look back to all these three tests. The first test was to set up a dedicated commission. The second was to provide the proportionate reservation on the basis of the recommendation of that commission. And the third thing was that the reservation shall not exceed the 50% limit. So now we will look at the present controversy which has taken place in the state of Maharashtra. In Maharashtra, the government of Maharashtra had constituted a commission to ascertain the backwardness of the OBCs. This means that the condition 1 of the Supreme Court was followed, which was to set up a dedicated commission. But the condition 2 was not followed. The reason being that the Maharashtra government did not wait for an empirical report as mandated by the court, and the ordinance was promulgated to amend the Maharashtra Zilla Parishad and Panchayat Samiti Acts and the Maharashtra Village Panchayat Act so as to conduct the local body elections while ensuring the OBC reservation. So the issue is that though the Maharashtra government constituted a commission, but it did not took into account the empirical evidences and recommendations of that commission. Because before the findings of that commission would have been presented before the state government, the government took the ordinance route to amend the Local Bodies Act in order to conduct the election. So from the examinations perspective, these things are very important for you to understand and analyze the issue of OBC. While attempting the answers in your mains, keep these three tests or the guidelines given by the Supreme Court in your mind, and in these guidelines you can frame your answers. So this topic is in relation to the Brahmos missile, which has been recently tested by the India's defense ecosystem. The topic has appeared in today's The Hindu newspaper on page number 10, and the topic reads the extended range Brahmos tested. The context of this topic is that we all are aware about the Brahmos missile which we already were occupying, but with the recent tests, its range has been expanded a lot. So this topic has appeared in this context only. This supersonic cruise missile Brahmos was tested off the coast of Chandipur. Now this location is also very important and you must be aware about this because location specific questions are directly asked in UPSC Prelims. So the place named Chandipur is located at the coast of Odisha. And this topic is mostly relevant from the preliminary examination under the syllabus of current events of national importance. Moreover, this topic can also be asked in the science and tech section. So that is why we will deal with this topic mostly in the context of the key features and facts related to the Brahmos missile system. So this is a factual topic, and now we will study some important facts related to this missile system. The first of all, we will discuss about the name of this Brahmos. Now as you can see, this name is formed out of two words, and both the words are related to the rivers of India and Russia, which means that this missile system is being jointly developed by the countries India and Russia. The name of the rivers is Brahmaputra, which is in India, and Moskva rivers in Russia. So that is why the name Brahmos is a combination of the names of Brahmaputra and Moskva rivers. And as we have discussed that this missile system is jointly being developed by India and Russia, so a joint venture company named Brahmos Aerospace was set up by the DRDO and Mashinostroyenia of Russia. But the important fact is that the majority share, that is 50.5% share, remains with India. And this was the first supersonic cruise missile to enter India's defense services. Now here you should know that what exactly do we mean by supersonic. So the supersonic is in relation to the speed. All the materials which are called as supersonic, it means that those materials have a speed greater than the speed of the sound. And in this very regard, the Brahmos missile is a supersonic missile system. Then it is a two-stage missile in which the fuels differ. At the first stage, the solid propellant booster is used, and in the second stage, a liquid ramjet is used. And as we have discussed that these missiles are supersonic in nature, which means they have speed greater than the speed of the sound, the speed of these Brahmos missile is around 2.8 Mach, which is roughly around 3 times of the speed of the sound. Further, these missiles are mostly known for the flexibility which they give to the defense services of different countries. Now, these missiles can be launched from land, sea, subsea, and air. That means it can be launched from any platform, and it can be launched against the surface and sea-based targets. It is one of the world's fastest anti-ship cruise missile. And further, there have been efforts taken by India to increase the speed as well as the range of this missile system. And the goal which India has set for itself is that we have to take this missile system at a hypersonic speed, that is above 5 Mach. Now, as we have discussed that presently the speed of this missile system is around 2.8 Mach, our aim is to take it above 5 Mach and the range of around 1500 kilometers. Now you must also be aware about a very important term in this context. The term is the standoff range weapons. The Brahmos missile systems are known to be the standoff range weapons. Now what are these standoff range weapons? These are those weapons which can be fired at a very huge range, and thereby they evade the defensive fire from the adversary. Now suppose because these missile systems will be fired 1500 kilometers away from the targets, this means that it will allow the attacker to evade the defensive fire from the adversaries. Further, the versions of the Brahmos that are being tested for now have an extended range of around 400 kilometers as compared to its initial range of 290 kilometers. But again, as we have discussed, our aim is to take it beyond 1500 kilometer range. Further, an important fact is a new manufacturing unit for the Brahmos missile is set to come up in the Uttar Pradesh Defense Corridor. Now from the prelims point of view, you need to be aware about the location of the Uttar Pradesh Defense Industrial Corridor and which districts will it connect in the state of Uttar Pradesh. So this is a map of Uttar Pradesh Defense Industrial Corridor. Now here you should memorize the name of the districts which this important Defense Industrial Corridor connects. It connects Lucknow, Kanpur, Chitrakoot, Jhansi, Agra, and Aligarh. This means that there are 6 districts in total in the states of Uttar Pradesh, and that is mainly in the southern and the western area of the UP, which this defense industrial corridor is going to connect, and a new establishment to manufacture the Brahmos missile system is coming up in the UP defense industrial corridors. Now, this topic has appeared in today's The Hindu New Delhi edition at page number 11, and this topic is mostly from the context of the international relations. The topic has come in the context that US warships have recently passed through the South China Sea, and it has sparked a row of controversies around it. As we are all aware about the fact that the South China Sea is one of the geopolitical hotspots because of the aggressive China and the complex geological as well as geographic location of that particular area. Moreover, when this complex geography is combined with the complex maritime laws, the intensity of the issues further exaggerate. But however, in today's discussion, we will restrict ourselves to the importance of the location of the South China Sea because in the preliminary examination under the section of the current events of international importance, multiple times the location based, world map based questions have been asked. For example, in UPSC 2017, a question was asked that which of the following is geographically closest to the Great Nicobar? And the options given were the Sumatra, Borneo, Java, and Sri Lanka. Now, if you have studied the world map closely, try to answer this particular question. And in continuation with this very trend, we will now look at some of the important places which lie in and near the South China Sea location. So in this particular map, I would like to attract your attention towards the north-south order of some important seas in this area. So in this particular map, the northernmost sea is the Sea of Okhotsk, which lie off the coast of Russia. Further, if you go more towards north, you are aware that there lie a Bering Sea. After Bering Sea, we have Sea of Okhotsk, and after Sea of Okhotsk, we have the Sea of Japan, which is also known as the East Sea. Now here you should be very aware about this fact that the East Sea and the East China Sea are different because the East Sea refers to the Sea of Japan, which lies north of the East China Sea. One more important thing is, which is not demarcated in this map, is that between the Sea of Japan and the East China Sea, in this particular location, we have Yellow Sea. So now again, Bering Sea, Okhotsk Sea, Sea of Japan, Yellow Sea, East China Sea, and then comes the South China Sea. Now please be aware about this, that South China Sea is in the south of China as the name suggests, because many of the students confuse the location of South China Sea in this particular area. And its location is one of the biggest reasons because the continental shelves of the countries like Vietnam, Philippines, China, they overlap in this particular area. And that is one of the biggest issues and the controversies regarding the control of the resources of South China Sea. China, being the aggressive country and a dominant military as well as economic power, it always tries to ensure its dominance in this particular region. And because you are already aware about the geopolitical interventions made by China and US in each other's zone of influence to enhance their particular influence, this topic has appeared in news because the US warships have passed the South China Sea, which has raised eyebrows in the region. Now we will come to this particular map, which is a zoomed version of the South China Sea. In the South China Sea, there are some important locations. For example, the Scarborough Shoal, Paracel Islands, Spratly Islands, and the James Shoal. Now you need to memorize these names because these are very important. Further, there also lies the Gulf of Tonkin at the coast of the Vietnam and China. Further, another important thing is the 9-dash line. Now this U-shaped line is a 9-dash line which connects the outermost physiological features of the South China Sea with reference to the Chinese coastline. Now the geopolitical importance of 9-dash line is that China claims that all of the resources lying within the 9 dashed line from the coast of China, that is, this particular region, China has a unilateral control over it. The issue is regarding the ownership of this particular area and the control over this particular area. But again, countries like Vietnam, Philippines, Australia, Indonesia, they have contested the claims of China in this particular region because they also say that their continental shelves extend towards this area also, and because there is overlapping of continental shelves, China unilaterally cannot change the order of this particular region. Nevertheless, from the prelims point of view, you need to be aware about all the locations which we have discussed in this short and brief session. So the next important topic is from the environment section, which has appeared in today's The Hindu newspaper at page number 10. The context of this topic is that Environment Ministry has made a plan to rank the states depending upon the faster rate of environmental clearances given by those states in order to increase the developmental projects in those respective states. So this topic falls under the General Studies paper 3 syllabus in the section of the environment, and the micro section of this particular subject clearly mentions the environment impact assessment. So that is why you need to be aware about what do you exactly mean by the environment impact assessment and what are the important steps which are there in the EIA. The view expressed in this particular article is that the Environment Ministry is planning to rank the states depending upon the faster environmental clearances given by those states. The broader objective of this is to enhance the speedy developmental projects in the states. As we all are aware about the recent COVID-induced economic stress which our country has gone through, so in order to revive the economy and generate the employment prospects, Center is incentivizing the state government officials to boost the development projects under their jurisdictions. However, this very plan has invited criticism from the environmental experts. The environmental experts have claimed that because now the incentives are being provided on the faster clearances given by the states may flout the norms of the environment impact assessment. And this in turn will challenge the very objective of the environmental impact assessment. On the other hand, the central government officials have told that the ranking criteria was not intended to accelerate the speed with which the clearances were accorded, but to encourage the SEIAA. That is, the state environmental impact assessment agencies to take quicker decisions on approving or rejecting a project and adhere to the timelines already specified by the provisions of the Act. They have said that this system is not to reduce the time taken to decide on a project. However, from the examination's point of view, this plan presently is not of much relevance until some concrete thing happens on ground. So, from the examination's perspective, what is important is the main processes which are involved in the environmental impact assessment. So the EIA has following 4 steps. The first is screening, the second is scoping, the third is associated with the assessment and evaluation of the impacts and development of alternatives, and the fourth one is the EIA report and decision making. Now we will discuss these steps in detail in order to make you understand that what exactly is the concept and the basic philosophy behind the EIA. So the first step, as the name suggests, is of screening. Here it is determining that which projects need a full or partial assessment study. For example, we have 2 types of projects. The first one is related to, let us say, thermal coal plants, and the other one is related to the solar plant development. Now, because you know that the environmental impacts of both these plants will differ, so this means that the environmental impact studies for these plants will also differ. And there might be some projects which will be totally green in nature and they do not require the environmental impact assessment. So the stage 1 is called screening, whereby it is studied that what type of developmental projects are going to take place and whether these projects require a full or a partial assessment study. The second step is related to the scoping of those projects. During this stage, it is decided that what are the important impacts which need to be studied. Here we have discussed about the projects, that whether this particular project requires a full or a partial assessment study. Once it is decided that this project requires the assessment study, the second stage is of scoping, under which the impacts of these projects are studied. Once you are available with all the impacts, then it is decided that which impacts are necessary, which needs to be assessed. This is done on various parameters which are legal, and these legal parameters may be in accordance with the domestic laws or the international laws. Further, the conventions are also taken place in order to understand the impacts and whether any convention is being violated or not. Further, the expert knowledge and the public is also engaged in order to holistically understand the impacts of these projects. Then comes the third stage, which is of assessment and the evaluation of those impacts. Under the stage 2 of scoping, once it is decided that what are the important impacts which needs to be studied on the basis of domestic or international laws, conventions, environmental experts or the public opinions, now the time comes when we have to analyze those impacts. So under this stage, the environmental impacts are predicted and identified. Further, under stage 3, the focus is also given on developing some alternatives. For example, there are certain impacts which there might be impacts which might be very detrimental for that particular region. So, in order to overcome those negative impacts, various alternatives are also suggested in order to balance the economic desirability and viability as well as the environment sustainability. Once these three steps are completed, the last step is of preparing the EIA report, and based on that report, this decision is made. And it is decided that whether the project is to be given the approval or not, and if it is to be given, what conditions should be followed. So once again, there are four sequential steps in the environmental impact assessment. The first is screening, scoping, assessment and evaluation of the impacts, and preparing the EIA report and final decision making. So now is the time for the question of the day. The question asked in yesterday's DNS was related to the national parks in Assam. The question asked which of the following national parks is or are located in Assam. The options given were Kaziranga, Dibru-Sakhova, and Orang. So the correct answer of this question is D, 1, 2 and 3. The question for today is in the context of the Brahmos missile. You have to find the correct statements out of the given two statements. The statement 1 is the Brahmos is a long-range ballistic missile capable to carry nuclear warheads, and the statement 2 says it is developed under a joint venture of India and Russia.